What's up, everybody? I just want to make a super quick video sharing how I build my teams and not just how I build my teams, but how I motivate my guys on my team to work even harder than I do and take the business more seriously than I even do myself. And this is because I've noticed in a lot of the teams I've built, I've had people work harder than me, wake up at 3 a.m., stay up till 4 a.m., and go out of their way to do more work than they're required to do. And when I talk to other fellow agency owners, I hear that, one of the biggest problems they have is like, man, my team sucks. Like my team is terrible, this, and all they're listing off is just 1,000 bad things. And so I figured I would just share a couple of the practices that I use with my team that I'm currently implementing with the setter team I'm building that has allowed me to have everyone show up to every single call, even though some of the calls are at like 10, 11 p.m. For some of the guys, but it doesn't matter because of the culture we've built, which is kind of the first thing I want to talk about. Is in order to build a team, you have to understand what you're getting yourself into, right? When you're building a team, it's not just like, oh, let me hire a guy, tell him he's going to do this job for me, and then just never talk to him again, and then like hope he just magically makes me more money, right? Like building a team takes way more time than you doing anything yourself. As a matter of fact, I'd argue that building a team is way harder than doing anything yourself in the first place. Yet a lot of people have a misunderstanding that, oh, me building a team is going to be super easy. I'm just going to hire some Filipino VA, give them this SOP, and then tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up with $1 million. But that's just not how it works, right? And that's unrealistic. As a matter of fact, a team takes so much upkeep, so much managing, so much training, just so much preparation, and so many things you would have never thought about if you don't properly understand what it's like to build a team. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, once you've got the understanding about a team, you have to understand what even is a team, right? And that's like a pretty stupid question, but I'd argue that a lot of people don't want to build teams. They just want to hire slaves, right? When I build a team, I build a family, I build a brotherhood, I build a group of guys that can bond for life. As a matter of fact, I remember the first ever setter team to this day, as I got a text from one of my setters actually about 2 months ago saying that he had just met up with one of the other setters from the team. This is 2 years after that agency didn't run anymore, and those guys were still in touch. Right? Because we just built, and I was still in touch with them because we just built such a close brotherhood. And that's the kind of environment you want to facilitate, especially for a team with the incentives of, commission-based and a lot of their money they earn comes from how much work they do. And so that's a huge thing. And so what I want to lead off that is culture. The biggest thing is the culture you create. What kind of environment are you creating? Are you creating environments where people are excited, where they're ready to work, where they're ready to show up to calls, where they feel like they're part of something bigger? Or just when people work for you, do they feel like they're just kind of like showing up, clocking their hours, going in and going out? Right? Because if you want people to truly work harder for your company than you do, you have to treat them as if they're a partner. You have to treat them as if they're your equal. You have to treat them better. A lot of people treat their employees like slaves. I treat my employees like they're partners. As like I even ask them for feedback. Hey, give me feedback on the offer. Give me feedback on the company. Do I take it all the time? No, but I'm open to accept their criticism because I value their opinion. And so what happens is now they respect me a lot more. And so when I give them advice and them critique, they value that a lot more because they understand that I don't think that I'm superior, right? I'm able to come down to their level and understand that, hey, I'm not perfect. And so what happens is now we have a team of people that are constantly looking for ways to get better. One of the best techniques I ever learned for building and training a team is don't tell people what to do. Give people a parameter in which they can operate by themselves. And so what you do is you make the mindset shift you have to make everyone the CEO of their own role. And so you have to allow them to be able to make decisions, to innovate, to come up with new ideas, right? There's this saying called ship, learn, iterate, which is this idea that instead of having your employees ask you about something, get them to do it, learn from the mistakes, and then iterate off it, right? It's this old saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And so motivate your team, and this is what comes with the right expectations, to be like, hey, it's like, I want you to try new things. I want you to innovate. I want you to and you have to be the one to facilitate this environment, right? You have to be able to give them access to trainings, to resources. You have to be able to let them grow in their position, right? Like building a team is the best way to say this is building a team is so much more than saying, hey, can you scrape leads for me? Great. Can you make calls for me? Great. Awesome. Talk to you never. You do the calls, I'll pay you. It's so much more than that. And if you want a team that functions properly, you have to put so much more effort into your team. Like, you have to put time into learning your guys, right? Time into learning how they operate. What are their goals? What do they want to do in life? What do they like? What do they don't like? Right? Everyone on my team, I know things about them because I care to learn it, because it impacts how we build the team, and just so many other things, right? And so I guess to expand on this and to really hone down on how, why is this focus so weird? By the way, shout out to my girlfriend for buying this hat for me. To really talk about how to make your team work harder for you than you do for yourself, it comes down to the culture. And it comes down to the expectations you set and how you treat them. That's it. If you have a culture where people are incentivized properly, that's a big thing, right? Like, if you're just paying people base pay, you wonder why they're not, whatever. Like, you can probably imagine why. And so culture is really a big one. Incentives are a big one. Why is this so weird color? Anyways, we digress. Incentives are a big one, right? What kind of incentives do they have? Are they incentivized to, work late nights? Or does that have nothing to do with them? Is what they're doing in alignment with their personal goals? For example, I remember a team I built, I didn't pay them anything. It was like, at the beginning of my agency, I didn't know what I was gonna pay. I didn't know how to pay. I just said, hey, you guys are gonna work for me for free. I'll just mentor you. And I had multiple guys say yes. As a matter of fact, the story I told you about the guys who met up in person is from this team. They never got paid a dime. Although I tried to repay them in every other way I could by setting up a network connection, et cetera, because I felt bad, right? But these guys were happy to do that. Why? Because they were learning things. Sure, they weren't directly getting paid, but they were learning things that were relevant to the things they wanted to learn. And so the thing you gotta realize is, if you're only motivating your team on money, you're always gonna lose. And the simple answer for that is someone else is always willing to pay more. There's always a bigger company that will pay more. And so if your only incentive is based on money, you will always lose, because people will always go, yeah, the money's great, right? But I'm lacking the purpose, and I can get more money somewhere else. And so I can get more money somewhere else. Sure, the purpose isn't there, but who cares? The purpose isn't here either. They pay more money, they're gonna go there. And so if you want people to stick around, you have to have something more than the money, right? More than the incentives. And that's where the culture, that's where the bonding, that's where the environment comes in. That's where your ability to actually impact someone's life personally outside of just the business realm comes into play. And so, although there's probably, and there is so many other little small things I do with my team that motivate them to work hard, that get them to stay up at 11 p.m. and show up to every single call, that get them to wake up at 3, 4 a.m., they get them to do 3, 4, 500 dials, right, even when they may not feel like it. There's other smaller tactics, but I'd say I'm gonna hone in on the biggest one, which is you have to set the right expectation, you have to have the right incentives, and you have to have the right culture and environment. If you are creating an environment that promotes growth, that promotes learning, that promotes learning from mistakes and failing, that promotes hard work, and that sets the bar here, you're gonna have the bar here. But if you don't have that environment, if you have bad expectations, if you yourself are a bad leader, right, your team is just a direct representation and reflection of how you treat yourself and your own whatever. So if your team is bad, it's because you're bad. Just for context, that's the way you have to look at it. And there's no such thing as B players, only B leaders, because an A leader can turn anyone into an A player, and anyone that they couldn't turn into an A player, they would have never hired. Therefore, they only ever have A players. You see how that kind of works? And one other thing I want to talk about, the last thing I want to mention in this, is the standards you set. Right? If you set the standard here, the standard will be here. If you set it here, it'll be here. If it'll be here, it'll be here. Your team will operate to the standard at which you set. And so if you set the standard at 100 cold calls a day, your team might do like 70, 80, right? But if you set the standard at 400 cold calls a day, right, and you make it realistic with the time they can actually spend, right? If they only have an hour, they're never gonna hit that. But if they genuinely have like 8 hours a day and you say, hey, the standard is 400, you're probably gonna get 2, 3, 350 cold calls in a day. They might not always hit the 400, but because you set the standard up here, 100 doesn't even seem like it would even make a difference or even be something you would consider. And that's because you wouldn't, right? Because people would be like, wow, I did 100, the standard is 400. You'd be off the team. I would fire you, right? And so just know that you can push people. The way I operate with my teams is I say, hey, you're here, and I see your potential as being here, and I want you to be here, and you want to be here. And so I'm going to hold you to the standard of the person you would be if you were here. The person that's here does this, which you do not do now. So I'm not going to hold you to your standards, because that's what's kept you here. I'm going to hold you to the standards of the person you want to become. Okay? And so yes, it will be tough. Yes, it will be difficult, but that's fine, because you're growing. And growth requires some form of pain, some form of sacrifice. And so yeah, it'll hurt, but that's because you're growing into this person, okay? And so yes, I will push you, and yes, it will feel uncomfortable, but you want to get here, and I'm going to hold you to that standard until you are there. Right? When you operate that mindset, and your team operates with that, and your team is holding everyone accountable to this standard of the person they should be, not the person they are. The whole environment that you create is just growth, 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 growth. Okay? Simple as that. So that's all. If you like this video, do me 2 favors. Number 1, go watch my other YouTube videos. You'll find a lot more value. Number 2, if you're an agency owner and you just want my advice on how you could scale, there's a button below. You can book a free call with me, and I look forward to chatting with you. Check out my videos. Adios.